Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Darren Woodfork. I'm an attorney here in Scottsdale, Arizona. And today I'm going to talk about something that every lawyer has probably been asked this question. At least every lawyer who's done criminal work or done trials or done litigation, is that's always how can you defend somebody who's committed a crime, or they think they've committed a crime, or you think is guilty, things like that. They always ask, well, how can you defend these people? And what I always say is that my job here is to make sure the system is fair and the system is appropriate under our justice system. And this might be a little controversial with other lawyers, not necessarily the public, but I always looked at it as in like fairness. And when I had clients and I was a public defender way back in the day, so I probably did about 2,000 criminal cases. And I remember what I did is one day, like I would represent somebody who was accused of, a violent crime, let's say, and the guy ended up taking a plea or whatever, and let's say he did 6.5 years for his case. Well, like the next day, I might have a kid who stole a car, not violent, nothing like that. And they're trying to give him 8 years, based on the particular circumstances. And so in that case where you have the guy with the car theft at 8 and the guy who committed a violent crime at 6.5, you always you go to the prosecutor and you're kind of like, well, this is not fair. Why should he get more than the other guy? And so then if they're not going to give him less than the other guy, you go to court and you fight tooth and nail for that kid who stole the car to make sure that either he gets completely off or gets a lesser sentence. And what I mean is that you refuse all the plea bargains and you go to trial and you try to get a full acquittal on that car theft just because, like I said, the prosecutors weren't treating him fairly. And that's pretty much how we did every case down at the public defender's office. It's a relative scale on, some guys, they thought should go to jail for, a long time for, a heinous crime or whatever. But then other things like, drug cases, things like that, there's no reason to put these guys in jail for, 10 years or whatever. So it was all relative when it came to how we defended people. And it was also kind of like when the prosecutors would charge the guys, they would charge the guys with like 4 different crimes, and maybe one of the charges they could make stick, but the other 3, they were no good charges. And so again, you would have to go to court, you have to go to trial and fight those 3 bad charges for sure. Just because the prosecutor wouldn't drop them and the plea bargains were terrible. So that's why we were in court. That's why we're fighting as much as we can. And when we're in court in that situation, like I said, when it's relatively, you're fighting for the relative scale, you're fighting for that, it's just not fair. The jury can see that. When you're arguing on behalf of your client, the jury can tell if you believe in your client, if you believe your client is innocent. The jury can tell all that stuff. And so if you want to have any chance of getting an acquittal, the jury has to believe you. And so you have to believe what you're fighting for. And if you're fighting for that relative scale, you want to make sure the American Constitution works properly, then that'll come through and it'll be beneficial for your client. Now, one of the things that in the beginning I said this is a little controversial because some lawyers would disagree with me and they would just basically say, relatively speaking, it has nothing to do with it. They're saying every person who's charged with a crime here in America is presumed innocent, and as their lawyer, you have to fight for them, because if you don't fight for literally everybody, the system breaks down and everybody deserves a lawyer, and there's nothing relative about it. No matter what they did, they deserve a lawyer and they're presumed innocent, and that's it. And so, my earlier, scenario about the guy with the theft case and the guy, committing a real violent, serious crime, there's no difference between the two under our Constitution, and you are their lawyer. You have to fight for them. And if you don't fight for them, our whole system breaks down. I remember one of my supervisors, when I was about a year or 2 into it, I said something about, why are they treating this guy this unfair and this guy not, or whatever, like I said earlier. And my supervisor basically read me the riot act and told me, he's like, you're their lawyer. Your job is to defend them no matter what, period. And so that's, again, that's the other the controversial aspect of kind of what I'm saying. But again, I think like when you walk into court though, in front of a jury, again, if you're really fighting for this stuff to be fair, the jury can see that, and that's why I was successful in the trials that I was successful in, getting my clients acquitted, and because again they see I believed in it, and that was it. So anyways, so that kind of answers that question of, how can you defend people who have been charged with a crime? But again, criminal defense lawyers here in America, it's a critical part of the system, and so you need to defend them, as hard as you can. So hope that helps. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.